Mank was directed by David Fincher and it stars Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried, Lily Collins, Tom Pelphrey, Charles Dance, a very star-studded cast, and is now available on Netflix. This movie did have a limited theatrical release in some places, but most people are probably not gonna make that, unfortunately, right now because of the pandemic. But thankfully, it's now safe to watch from the comfort of your home. And this movie tells the story of Herman J. Mankiewicz, who I'm sure most people know was the writer of Citizen Kane, often regarded as one of the greatest movies ever made. In fact, maybe the greatest film. And this movie is about the behind the scenes of that film, the events that led to that, the events happening within Mank's life that inspired a lot of the storytelling, and a lot of that eventually culminates in him writing a story that may be the best thing he's ever written, despite the fact that he thinks he's pretty washed up and he's become a raging alcoholic, and which he has always been, in fact. The screenplay of this movie is credited to Jack Fincher, who was David Fincher's late father, and according to many sources, particularly David Fincher himself, his father wanted this movie made, and this is the story that he had in mind, and he wanted it executed. This movie, in a lot of ways, is exactly the kind of film that I really love. Sometimes a film that comes along and you can tell there's a love that's gone into this project. You can tell that there is this sort of heart to it, that there's something personal about it. And those are the projects I sometimes end up appreciating the most. Films where you can tell that everyone involved was telling a beautiful story and wanting to tell that beautiful story. And in a lot of ways, Mank is not a beautiful story by any means. I mean, it has its rough edges, but it's told wonderfully by the script, by the direction, by the brilliant performances, and it results in maybe my favorite movie of the year. Gary Oldman in this film is downright phenomenal. He plays Mankiewicz to a T. From everything that has been described about this man from over the years, he plays it wonderfully, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's right now #1 on every Best Actor contender list. As is everybody in the cast. Amanda Seyfried in particular is maybe gonna get an Oscar nomination for this as well. She's wonderful in this movie. Lily Collins is great. Tom Pelphrey is great. There is not one performance in this movie that's off. Every single little detail, every nuance in every actor is beautifully realized. Speaking of beautiful, this film is gorgeous. Now, this was shot on digital, but it was given a very film-like quality to reflect the late 30s and 40s, and I think the film succeeds brilliantly, not just in the visuals, but also in terms of the sound design. It sounds very much like a movie that was shot in 1940 or 1941. The score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which I'm definitely sure is going to be an Oscar contender as well, is brilliant that way. It is actually very reflective of the original Citizen Kane movie's score. In a lot of ways, this movie, it feels like at once a love letter to Citizen Kane, but at the same time it's being its own movie. And it's very easy to watch a film like Mank and go, this is Oscar bait. Clearly, this was made with the intent to win a lot of awards. But like I said at the beginning of the review, this is not that kind of film. This is a film that has a beating heart to it. It's not like some of the other movies I've seen that can qualify as Oscar bait. There are some blatant ones out there. This is not like that. This is a film that is very authentic and very heartfelt in the way it's told its story. And much like Citizen Kane, it addresses a lot of things at once. It's not a film that's solely trying to focus on one aspect of Mank's life or just one thing going on. Much like Citizen Kane, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And there are a lot of parallels that you can make to Citizen Kane. Now, I'm not saying that you need to see Citizen Kane in order to appreciate Mank. In fact, in some ways, you might watch Citizen Kane after this and might appreciate that movie more, unless you have already seen that before. Although I would recommend it. I think in some cases, you would find certain scenes to be a lot more effective here if you've seen Citizen Kane. And that's honestly to be expected. I don't think that should surprise a single soul that that's how this movie does tend to roll in a few places, but that's fine. I did think that this film did a really good job of honoring that film though, and telling the story of how that got made in an effective way. Lily Collins' character is also wonderful. I have talked about this, but the way that she has a connection to Mankiewicz and how she's helping him pen the script down and her own story that's going on, it's also really affecting. And you're invested in the struggles that are going on with her. She's very concerned about one specific thing, which is her husband's at war. So that tends to, bring some emotions out in her, and you are invested in, like, oh, I hope her husband makes it out okay. And in terms of relationships like that throughout the film, those are minor little moments, but moments that really have a powerful impact. Like Mankiewicz with his brother. That's also another one that's really well realized. That connect that the two of them have. They're opposing viewpoints at times. They'll sometimes just do drastic things and be like, yeah, I totally disagree with you. But as the years go on, they look back on it and they think, no, actually, your mistakes were made here and there. But as the script is being written, he's like, well, everyone's read it, and frankly speaking, it's probably the best thing you've ever done. And in a lot of ways, Mankiewicz is getting over this idea of his self-doubt and his concerns over it, as well as his connection to Amanda Seyfried's character, which I can't really talk about too much because I don't want to spoil it for somebody who wants to see this movie. But you sort of understand every single thing, and again, Fincher and his father's screenplay, they bring it to life perfectly. This is a film that I don't think everyone will love. In fact, I'm pretty sure there are going to be people who see this film and think, I don't know, this is not really working for me. It's definitely a film that can be looked at very easily as this pretentious form of art that, is really going for awards, or it's a film that's very lacking in substance, really, which it sometimes does, because there are moments where you will expect a little more context to something, but it's not quite there. And you'll think, well, I'm not quite as invested in this. I was invested in some other stuff, but not so much in this other thing that's happening all of a sudden. This movie focuses on what's important at the end of the day. It focuses on its core characters. It focuses in on their struggles and telling that story, and how it's telling essentially the fall and rise of Mankiewicz as a writer, as somebody who is looked at respectfully in the Hollywood establishment, then looked down upon, and then maybe the script is starting to boost things up again. It's telling this very simple story, but in a very effective way, and I'm going in a loop here. So in the end, Mank was a really wonderful film. I loved it, and frankly, I have no shame in giving it the rating that I'm about to. So without further ado, I'm gonna give Mank a 10 out of 10. What can I say? Sometimes you watch a film and it just connects with you, just resonates with you. I'm interested to hear what other people think about this movie. What are their reactions to it? I have a lot more reviews coming out this weekend, guys. Sound of Metal, Ammonite. There's going to be some stuff to talk about. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys at the movies.